Welcome back, you boy Zeke. Uh, so there's been a lot of discussion. The offense for the Cleveland Browns, I think, is 31st in scoring, and they last time they scored 20 points. Jameis Winston was your quarterback. That was early December, and outside of the games that James played, I think the last time that you had 20 points was the playoff game against Houston. So bad. Um, so then you come down to who's to blame. Obviously, Kevin Stefanski is the coach and for the most part the play caller. There was some time, basically second half of last season, it was Ken Dorsey. But he's a play caller and head coach. And it's his offense, at least it's been most of the time. So he gets a lion's share of the blame. But also I think the quarterback play plays into that as well. And the lack of weapons on this offense. But also like 20 points being the bar really isn't a lot. Teams stumble into 20 points per game. I think like half of the league, more than half of the league, averages over 20 this season. But when it comes down to stuff like that, I think part of it is Kevin Stefanski, obviously scheming up, getting stuff called. And I think another part is the Browns have had tons and tons of penalties and tons of turnovers. I think from a penalty standpoint, that discipline or lack thereof, I believe is tracked back to the head coach. While like penalties, or sorry, while like turnovers, that's a product of the players. Kevin Stefanski doesn't have a high, uh, like a turnover, high throwing in tight windows, high low percentage throw kind of offense. It's always been relatively conservative, I think. So because he wants to limit the turnovers. But that's been the case because you've had Joe Flacco who turns the ball over a lot. Deshaun Watson wasn't turning the ball over, but then you went to Jameis Winston, who 30 for 30 Jameis, we love him, turns the ball over. DTR turns the ball over. Bailey Zappi turns the ball over. Um, so you're gonna have that even when Baker Mayfield was here. He's a guy who turns the ball over a lot. Now, granted, in 2020, he limited those turnovers and you know as a team, it wasn't so bad. Um, but also, how much can you really blame a coach when, or how much can you blame a chef when the ingredients that you got just ain't that good? Um, that's a question that I don't have the answer to, but I'm a Stefanski guy. And I think Stefanski's a good coach. I think he's a good play caller. And they need a lot more talent on this offensive side of the ball. If you look at the quarterbacks outside of Baker Mayfield, who's been a decent quarterback. Deshaun Watson in year two, 2023, the beginning of that season was decent. And that second half of Baltimore was good. But outside of that, he was horrible. Jameis Winston had like two good games, three games, and then the rest of that was horrible. You go into then you go back to Baker Mayfield in 2020, 2021 when he was hurt, he was horrible. But I'm of the thought that Stefanski doesn't need much. Go look up the numbers. With Jacoby Brissett, the games that he played what, 11 games? I am pretty confident that the Browns were a top 10 offense or were close to it. Definitely top half. So he don't need you to be great. He just need a guy that's not going to turn it over, that will be able to take shots downfield and can play on time. If you can do that, you can succeed in this offense. And something I think is an indictment on Andrew Berry, this team has never had like a surplus of talent on its roster. If you start in the Stefanski era, and I want to get some backup on this just to make sure I'm right. Let's see. Because in 2020, if I believe correctly, and then I'll verify, I think in 2020, you had Baker, you had Chubb and Hunt, so great backfield. That's when you signed Austin Hooper, who was catch the ball and he failed every time. David Njoku, who wasn't really seasoned yet. Then you had Odell, who got hurt early. Jarvis, and then your number three, I believe, was DPJ. So let's go to this roster. Yeah. And then, yeah, matter of fact, Harrison Bryant was your number two, which is actually kind of insane. And then, yeah, from a receiver standpoint, Rashad Higgins was your three. Rashad Higgins was your three. And DPJ was kind of like your floater. But I cannot find him on this roster, which is kind of crazy. Oh, okay. There he goes. DPJ. Yeah. So you had two good receivers, although Odell only played half the season. And then everybody else was just kind of mediocre. And then if you go into the next season, 2021, I think you had Chubb and Hunt again, but Chubb battled some injuries that year. Hunt battled some injuries that year. Odell was gone halfway through the season. I think Jarvis had a knee injury that year. Then obviously you still had Hooper and I think Njoku played a little bit more, Harrison Bryant. And from a receiver standpoint, like, yeah, so your starting receivers, DPJ, Jarvis Landry to finish the season. Like I said, Odell ended up leaving. And then everybody else that was on that roster, receiver wise, Demetric Felton, like no name guys, Rashard Higgins. So basically, from a pass catcher standpoint, in 2020 and 2021, your best guy was Jarvis Landry, who's good but not a field stretcher. And your secondary guy was Rashard Higgins, who wasn't in the league much after he left the Browns. Roll into 2022. You got Chubb and Hunt again. Chubb had a really good year this year. Uh, don't really remember too much what Hunt did, but I think, but yeah, obviously he played. Um, your starting receivers, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper. A 28-year-old Amari Cooper, but was really good. DPJ had 800 yards this year, but also it's DPJ, no disrespect. And the other receivers, David Bell, who's slow, Jalen Darden, Demetric Felton again. Um, yeah, some no-name gangsters. Anthony Schwartz. This is year two of Anthony Schwartz. So yeah, a bunch of no-name gangsters. And then you had DPJ for a while in 2022. Okay. And then DPJ. So really DPJ, who I believe got traded. No, DPJ and Coop. Your main two guys. So Coop and a bunch of no-name gangsters. So it's still not a surplus. David and Njoku's your starter by now. Austin Hooper's gone. And then you go into 2023, which were 10th in points, by the way, in 2023. Let's go back 18 in 2022, 20th in 2021, 14th in 2020. Sorry, so 14th in 2020, 20th in 21, 18th in 22, 10th in 23. So 2023. 2023, Chubb gets hurt at the beginning of the season, week two at Pitt. So Jerome Fortier, your number one back, who had 1,000 total yards, but just a guy. Sorry, at running back, respectfully. Amari Cooper, another monster year. Um, then you had Elijah Moore as your two. I'm a big Elijah Moore guy. It just never really panned out. David Njoku had his best year to date. And then outside of that, David Bell, uh, Jalen Darden, Marquise Goodwin, who was hurt a lot of the year. And who else? James Prochet, said Tillman. So Amari Cooper and Joku, no running back, and a bunch of no-name gangsters. And then you go finally to last year. Obviously, you ended up getting rid of Coop. So you had Judy, Elijah Moore. Um, Also, you had some David Bell in there. You had some Michael Woods in there. You had Jalen Darden, who always is just there. And That's really it when we're talking about that. James Prochet again, he pops up. Um, Said Tillman, Jamari Thrash, and Kadarius Tony for a cup of tea. So yeah, so basically that's my way of saying that. Although Andrew Berry's had a fantastic draft this year, drafting offensive weapons has been a problem. So this team needs some explosiveness. We haven't really had that in a long time because we don't have the guys to go make explosive plays. Haven't had that for 2 or 3 years. Our most explosive player over the years has been Amari Cooper, who isn't a burner. He's a route runner. So um, a part of the Browns' roles is trying to find some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You can't keep trading for receivers. You got to bring in and develop some guys. So I would love for the Browns to use a high draft asset next year specifically on a playmaker that can make a difference on the offensive side of the ball at receiver. This year, you drafted Quinshon Judkins. I think he looks really good. I think he's going to continue that. Dylan Sampson looks solid when he gets opportunities. Harold Fannin Jr. looks really good. What this team is missing is somebody that can stretch it vertically or is a threat to take a slant 80. And you don't have that. Jerry Judy is a one, but he's a lower tier one. He's really would be a high end two. He is good, a really good route runner, more of a possession receiver, has more speed than you think, but we don't use him that way. Um, you got Bond, Isaiah Bond, who's going to be your field stretcher. Uh, but you also need that like super dynamic one. If you get a super dynamic one, Judy's your two, Bond's your three, two tight ends, that changes this offense dramatically. And then obviously you got to get the quarterback to tie it all in together. But I think personnel has been a huge reason. So Stefanski with the penalties, lack of talent. So that'd be Andrew Berry. And then on the flip side of that, you also got um, the lack of a quarterback. I think those are your three reasons why you got so many issues with this offense and how putrid it's been. So hopefully, if they make this quarterback change, you can see the uptick in the quarterback play, a decrease in the turnovers, and then with the playmakers, you just maybe Isaiah Bond emerges to more than what we think, more than what he is currently. Maybe he doesn't. Um, Jerry Judy most definitely has to reach that form that he had with Jameis Winston. We've only seen it once, and that's when he had Jameis Winston. So hopefully he can take that to the next level. He got to get his swag back. I think he let Lee in drops last year, but it seemed like he was catching everything with Jameis. And I think his confidence got high. His swagger got different. The minute I seen him out there playing a game, he had a chain on. I said, "Oh, he's playing like a number one receiver." And his swag was just different. He got to find that confidence back, that moxie. And Stefanski got to dial up these screens. In 2020, 2021, 2022, best screen game in the game, Kevin Stefanski. And over the last 2 to 3 years, haven't seen it. Haven't seen it. Got to get back to that. Obviously, Quinshon Judkins, give him the ball as much as you can. Figure out a way to have him and Dylan Sampson on the field at the time. Figure out a way to have Njoku and Harold Fannin on the field at the same time. And and exploit those mixed matches, man. I want to see some shifts where hey, you got Harold Fanning on the line, you shift him out wide, or maybe the same thing with David and Njoku. I want to see Dylan Sampson in the slot, then you bring him in the backfield, or you put him on an orbit motion, and then see some creativity that way. Let's go double barrel. We begged and pleaded for double barrel shotgun with Chubb and Hunt. Saw it like half a season, not even that. Like, get creative, man. Sometimes like you got to get into your Duffy when things ain't working the way you want it to. And I know you want to you feel like you can't run those things, but fuck it. It was the worst thing that happened, Kevin. Make it happen, dog. So, those are a lot of reasons why the offense has struggled. They got to figure out how to make it improve and make it better moving forward. So let's see if they make some changes. We're gonna start this week. I think they can do it. Can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? Who knows? But that's all I got for this episode, man. Figuring out what's wrong with the Browns offense and, ways to potentially fix it.